Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India News Hour, India's voice to the world. I'm Siddharth Bharadwaj. Coming up in the next hour. In a major infra push to eastern state Bihar, PM Modi inaugurates key development projects worth 13,000 crore, 8.15 kilometer long Onta Samaria bridge to improve connectivity and ease traffic. India's External Affairs Minister concludes Moscow visit, calls on Russian President Vladimir Putin, discusses key bilateral and global issues ahead of annual leaders summit later this year. Former Sri Lanka President Ranil Wickremesinghe arrested for alleging misusing government funds. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to resume negotiations on hostage release but on Israel's terms, proceeds with Gaza takeover plan. In a bid to avoid UN sanctions, the Iranian Foreign Minister to hold talks regarding nuke negotiations with French, British and German counterparts in a conference telephone call. All right, and that's a breaking news that we're getting. Former Sri Lanka President Ranil Wickremesinghe was arrested on Friday after appearing before the Criminal Investigation Department in Colombo. The arrest is linked to allegations that Wickremesinghe used state funds to cover expenses for a 2023 private visit to London, where he attended a university graduation ceremony. Investigators claim the trip, which formed part of a wider overseas tour, was not an official engagement but was financed with government money. Wickremesinghe served as Sri Lanka's president from 2022 to 2024. And this is the news that we are getting for you. Ranil Wickremesinghe is arrested after appearing before the Criminal Investigation Department in Colombo for misusing the government funds, in fact. And investigators claim the trip, which formed part of a wider overseas tour, was not on an official engagement but was financed with government money. This is the news that we are getting for you, and we'll soon be joined by our correspondent from Sri Lanka. The arrest of Ranil Wickremesinghe is linked to allegations that Wickremesinghe used state funds to cover expenses for a 2023 private visit to London. And Ranil Wickremesinghe, former Sri Lanka president, is arrested for misusing government funds. The arrest is linked to allegations that he used state funds to cover expenses for a 2023 private visit to London, where he attended a university graduation ceremony. More details are awaited, but right now the news that we are getting for you is that the ex-president of Sri Lanka, former Sri Lanka president Ranil Wickremesinghe, is arrested on charges of corruption. In fact, on charges of misusing the government funds. We will soon be joined by our correspondent from Sri Lanka, but this is the news that we are getting for you right now. The arrest is linked to allegations that he used those funds, he used state funds to cover a private visit to London, where he also attended university graduation ceremony. Investigators, in fact, claim the trip was not an official engagement but was financed with the government money. Wickremesinghe served as Sri Lanka's president from 2022 to 2024. This is the breaking news that we are getting for you right now. Ranil Wickremesinghe is arrested on charges of misusing the government funds. Uh, he covered expenses for a 2023. In fact, the allegations are that Wickremesinghe used the state funds to cover expenses for a 2023 private visit to London. And now this is the news that we are getting from you, and we are joined by our correspondent Ahmed Moin Faruqi from Colombo. Hi Ahmed. The thing that Ranil Wickremesinghe is arrested to misuse government's fund is something, but we need to dig deeper into this matter. Is there something else? Is there a conspiracy which is happening? What is the details of his arrest? What more can you tell us on Ranil Wickremesinghe's arrest?
You see, the current government, the NPP government, had come riding on the wave that it is going to fight corruption, and all the other cases of corruption would also be dealt with in a very severe manner. So this is one such incident which NPP government has been talking about, that any misuse of official machinery, misuse of official funds will not be spared. With regard to this being a possible conspiracy or any other associated kind of a story, that's up for debate and discussion. But for now, what has been stated is that when the then President, Mr. Wickremesinghe, had been returning from Havana, he made a stopover at London in September 2023. This was completely, which was not an official visit. It was something which was for his personal requirement. He wanted to attend a university program. So this has been confirmed and told by his former, advisors as well as secretary also. So this is something which has been an important kind of a development. He had to present himself before the Financial Crimes Investigation Department, where he had to answer a few questions. He had to record a statement, and today this development has come up. Now he's being taken to the Colombo Fort Magistrates Court, where he'll be presented, and further court proceedings are expected to come up further. But till that time, it's still we have to wait for the further details to come from the magistrate court as well.
Okay. We got to know, Ahmed, that the investigation, like you're also saying, has started. Any updates regarding the investigation? What sort of questions are being asked to Ranil Wickremesinghe after the arrest, and what are the answers which he is giving? Any updates on that, or the updates are still awaited?
No, we are still awaiting for the updates. There is a possibility that the updates will be revealed during the court proceedings. And furthermore, it has been informed that he has already answered the questions that were presented before him by the CIT. And further, details will be revealed probably after the court proceedings are over.
Okay, this is developing. We'll keep taking updates from you on this, Ahmed. Thank you so much. We leave it there as of now. Moving on, Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says the country will begin Gaza ceasefire talks. He adds the country is also pushing ahead with its plan to capture Gaza City and defeat Hamas. This report has the details.
In a major breakthrough, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has said that Israel will begin Gaza ceasefire and hostage release negotiations with immediate effect. Netanyahu added that he was meeting military commanders to approve plans for capturing Gaza City and defeating Hamas.
I arrived at Gaza Division to approve the plans that the Israeli army presented to me and the Minister of Defense for taking over Gaza City and defeating Hamas. I greatly appreciate the presence of the reserve soldiers and of course the regular army for this vital goal. At the same time, I have issued instructions to begin immediate negotiations for the release of all our hostages and an end to the conflict on terms acceptable to Israel.
In a sign that the government was pressing ahead with the plan, the military has called up 60,000 reservists. Meanwhile, Israelis continue to protest for the release of hostages. Global pressure is also mounting, with UN Chief Antonio Guterres renewing calls for a Gaza ceasefire.
I must reiterate that it is vital to reach immediately a ceasefire in Gaza and the unconditional release of all hostages, and to avoid the massive deaths and destruction that a military operation against Gaza City would inevitably cause. Simultaneously, the decision by the Israeli authorities to expand illegal settlement construction which would divide the West Bank must be reversed. All settlement construction is a violation of international law.
The development comes after Hamas accepted a ceasefire proposal put forward by Egypt and Qatar. The plan calls for a 60-day ceasefire and the release of 10 hostages held in Gaza by Hamas and of 18 bodies. In return, Israel would release nearly 200 long-serving Palestinian inmates. Once the temporary ceasefire begins, the proposal is for Hamas and Israel to begin talks on a permanent ceasefire that would include the return of the remaining Israeli hostages. Bureau Report, TD India.
Updates now on the Russia-Ukraine conflict. Russian forces claim to have made advancements in Ukraine's eastern Donetsk region on Thursday. The Russian forces said that they have captured the Ukrainian village of Oleksandr Shultine, while Ukraine reported on the same day that it had regained control over most of Tovste in Donetsk and hit Russian targets, including an oil refinery. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov said at a press conference on Thursday that the presence of foreign troops on Ukrainian soil is unacceptable for Moscow. Lavrov accused Western powers of attempting to undermine recent US-Russia talks in Alaska and ignoring Russian interests in efforts to resolve the Ukraine crisis. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, in a video address on Thursday, reported that Russia launched a massive attack overnight, including 574 drones and 40 missiles. Zelensky also said one missile destroyed an American-owned household appliance factory in Mukashevo, calling it a deliberate strike on US investment. Further, Zelensky stressed that Russia's overnight attacks show Moscow is trying to avoid need for meetings aimed at ending conflict. Zelensky also said that the negotiations at the leadership level can realistically bring progress towards achieving peace.
In Mukashevo, the Russians burnt a factory, an American factory, by the way, a manufacturer of electrical appliances. And those were household appliances, nothing military. The Russians knew perfectly well where they were aiming. There are two negotiation formats which realistically can bring progress, and one of these is to meet at the leadership level. A bilateral format of Ukraine-Russia and a trilateral one, Ukraine-US-Russia. We discussed that in Washington. Putin talked about that during his call to President Trump. Now what we hear from Russia is just truth be told, simply indecent.
Meanwhile, military leaders from the United States and several European nations submitted proposals to their national security advisors outlining potential security guarantees for Ukraine on Thursday. The Pentagon said US and European planners crafted these military options for careful evaluation by allied security officials. The chiefs of defense for the United States, Finland, France, Germany, Italy, United Kingdom, and Ukraine met in Washington, D.C. between Tuesday and Thursday. European countries are likely to provide the majority of forces and cover most costs for Ukraine's security guarantees, though details are still being finalized. Trump won't send US troops to Ukraine, but many offer air support. In fact, it may offer air support, possibly through air defense systems or enforcing a no-fly zone with the US jets. This followed US President Donald Trump's pledge to help protect the country under any deal to end the conflict. Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi will have a joint telephone call with his French, British and German counterparts on Friday to discuss nuclear talks and sanctions. The three European nations have threatened to activate United Nations sanctions on Iran under a snapback mechanism if Iran does not return to the negotiating table over its nuclear program. The countries, along with the United States, contend that Iran is using the nuclear program to potentially develop weapons. In 2018, President Donald Trump pulled the US of Iran nuclear agreement, citing non-compliance by Tehran. The US has accused Iran of trying to build nuclear weapons, a charge Tehran denies. And still to come on DD India News Hour. We will tell you what ISRO chairman said on space applications and their use. The Supreme Court has modified its earlier directive mandating the confinement of all stray dogs in shelters across Delhi NCR. Stay with us to know more on this.
Complex issues, hidden agendas, twists and turns, strategic games. We think all dots are linked. We just need to connect them. Join me every week as I connect the dots to unravel hidden designs in statecraft, mysteries, and decode issues that matter to you. Watch Connecting the Dots with me at these times on DD India.
You're watching DD India News. I'm Siddharth Bharadwaj. Prime Minister Narendra Modi is on a visit to the eastern Indian state of Bihar. Prime Minister Modi began the day with a roadshow in Gaya, followed by a public meeting. Where he laid the foundation stone and inaugurated multiple development projects belonging to multiple sectors, including power, road, health, urban development, and water supply. PM Modi also flagged off Amrit Bharat Express between Gaya and Delhi and the Buddhist circuit train between Vaishali and Koderma. Grih Pravesh ceremony of 12,000 rural beneficiaries under PMAY Gramin and 4,260 beneficiaries under PMAY Urban also took place with the symbolic handing over the keys to a few beneficiaries by the Prime Minister, thus fulfilling the dream of owning a house of thousands of families. From Bihar, PM Modi will visit West Bengal, where capital Kolkata is set to get a major infrastructure boost. The Prime Minister will inaugurate key metro routes and lay the foundation, in fact, for the elevated Kona Expressway, promising faster travel, better connectivity and a big push to regional growth. DD India's Tapas Bhattacharya tells us more.
Kolkata is set for a massive infrastructure upgrade. Prime Minister Narendra Modi will inaugurate multiple metro railway projects worth more than 5,200 crores in the city on Friday. At Jessore Road Metro Station, Prime Minister will flag off Naupada Jai Hind Biman Bandar service, providing faster and smoother access to the airport. He will also launch the Sialdah Esplanade and Beleghata Hemanta Mukhopadhyay metro services, easing congestion across some of Kolkata's busiest corridors. Moreover, a newly built subway at Howrah metro station will be inaugurated, improving passenger movement at one of city's key transit hubs. Together, these new routes are expected to cut down travel time, strengthen multimodal transport, and benefit lakhs of daily commuters.
Yeah, it's a huge opportunity of Kolkata, West Bengal. Basically, we are very pleased and very glad to coming to Prime Minister Mr. Narendra Modi ji again for inauguration metro rail at Calcutta. So we are very happy and we are very glad. Not only me, it's all over Kolkata, all over West Bengal are very glad.
Beyond rail, Prime Minister will also lay the foundation stone for 7.2 kilometer 6-lane elevated Kona Expressway, to be built at a cost of more than 1,200 crore rupees. The project will connect Howrah, its rural belts, and Kolkata more efficiently. By reducing travel hours, the corridor is expected to give a major push to trade, commerce, and tourism across the region.
A new dawn in Kolkata's urban infrastructure is here. The new line of Kolkata's metro and road connectivity will not just benefit thousands of commuters, but also transform its urban connectivity in the city of joy. With camera person Jagmohan, this is Taposh Bhattacharya for DD India from Kolkata.
ISRO's inaugural session of National Meet 2025 is being held in New Delhi with the theme Leveraging Space Technology and Applications for Viksit Bharat 2047. The key focus of the meet is to discuss the integration of agriculture, environment, infrastructure, health, education, communication, disaster management and regional development with space technologies to strengthen national progress. Addressing the gathering, ISRO Chairman V. Narayanan talked about the critical role of space program in Viksit Bharat, reaffirming the nation's commitment to technological excellence.
By 2040, we will be in par with any other spacefaring nation in terms of rocket technology, in terms of satellite technology, in terms of application. And we are going to contribute for the Viksit Bharat 2047 to make India as a developed country, make Bharat as a developed country before we celebrate 100 years of independence. Let me thank the Honorable Prime Minister who always say there should not be a space between space and common man of this country. Surely we are going to do that.
The ISRO chairman also talked about how space applications are today helping in averting damages during natural disasters, improving productivity in agriculture, besides others in recent past.
Today there are 55 space applications. Television broadcasting, telecommunication, telemedicine, weather forecasting, ensuring food security for the citizens of this country, ensuring water security, ensuring safety and security of every citizen of Bharat through whatever way satellite can do, disaster warning and mitigation, and connecting 8,700 trains in real time, potential fishery zone monitoring.
The meet comes ahead of the second National Space Day to be celebrated on Saturday. On 23rd of August in 2023, Chandrayaan-3 mission accomplished safe and soft landing of Vikram lander on the lunar surface. With this, India became the fourth country to land on the moon and first to land near the southern polar region of the moon. The soft landing was followed by a successful deployment of Pragyan rover. The landing site was named as Shiv Shakti Point and August 23 was declared as the National Space Day. This year, the day focuses on India's journey from Aryabhat to Gaganyaan and envisions the infinite possibilities ahead. Ahead of the National Space Day, Minister of Science and Technology Dr. Jitendra Singh has said on social media, and I quote, on 23rd of August 2023, under the leadership of Prime Minister Narendra Modi, India created history as the fourth nation to land on the moon and the first at its south pole, a moment that inspired the future. Tomorrow, we celebrate the second National Space Day, honoring India's journey from satellites to human spaceflight and our vision of infinite possibilities. Group Captain Shubhanshu Shukla, Group Captain Prasar Balakrishnan Nair and Group Captain Punyashlok Biswal, along with Chairman ISRO and Secretary Department of Space Dr. V. Narayanan and Director Human Space Flight Center Dinesh Kumar Singh called on President Draupadi Murmu at Rashtrapati Bhavan. Group Captain Shubhanshu Shukla shared his experiences in space with the President. The President extended her best wishes to the entire team for future endeavors, especially for the Gaganyaan mission. India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar concluded his Russia visit on Thursday with meeting President Putin at the Kremlin. He conveyed the warm greetings of President Draupadi Murmu and Prime Minister Narendra Modi. He also apprised Putin of his discussions with First Deputy Prime Minister Denis Manturov and counterpart Sergei Lavrov, and also about the preparations for the annual Leaders Summit slated for end of this year. External Affairs Minister Jaishankar appreciated Putin sharing perspectives on the global situation and recent developments on Ukraine. Overall, Jaishankar's visit to Moscow aimed at further strengthening the time-tested India-Russia partnership. Former Manipur Chief Minister Wickremesinghe hailed the Assam Rifles for collecting biometrics of those who have been entering India illegally from Myanmar and said the influx of outsiders is real and ongoing. In a post on X, Wickremesinghe said, under the new FMR policy, the Assam Rifles have mapped around 42,000 Myanmar nationals who entered India through various border points since last December. Their entry has been recorded with the help of biometrics and verification measures along the Indo-Myanmar border. This is a positive step towards regulating the entry of foreign nationals, and it will also help in checking the abnormal population growth witnessed in Manipur in recent years. And let's take a look at other stories making news in India. The Election Commission has appointed Sushil Kumar Lohani, Additional Secretary of Ministry of Panchayati Raj, and D. Anandan, Additional Secretary of Ministry of Finance, as observers for the 17th Vice Presidential Election 2025 scheduled for the 9th of September. The election has been associated due to the resignation of Jagdeep Dhankar, who tendered his resignation last month citing health reasons. The Supreme Court has modified its earlier directive mandating the confinement of all stray dogs in shelters across Delhi NCR. A bench led by Justice Wickremesinghe has now allowed the release of dewormed and vaccinated strays back to their original locations. Aggressive or rabid dogs, however, will not be released. Jammu and Kashmir Lieutenant Governor Manoj Sinha dismissed 2 government employees for alleged terror links on Friday. The decision was made under Article 311 of the Constitution, allowing for their dismissal without a formal inquiry if the authority believes holding an inquiry is not reasonably practicable or not in the interest of the security of the state. The individuals, a teacher and an assistant stockman from Kupwara, were found to be working for Lashkar-e-Taiba. A thorough probe by intelligence and law enforcement agencies yielded incriminating evidence against the perpetrators. Carrying forward its vision, the International Buddhist Confederation organized the 3rd International Conference of Young Buddhist Scholars today in New Delhi. The theme for this year's conference was Wisdom Transmission in Buddha Dhamma in the 21st century, bringing together young voices to deliberate on the relevance of Buddha's teachings in contemporary times. Still to come on DD India News Hour. We'll discuss in details Israel's plan on Gaza truce. Trump administration reviewing 55 million foreign visa holders, warns to be revoked anytime.
Geopolitics and trade deals. Economic challenges amid development. Hard work and the path to prosperity. It's the economy, always. Between walkers, money is what money does and says. Supply creates its own demand. Between the bulls pulls and bears tears. When supply chains globalization and India rises to the podium. We'll get you centered with the Economic Brief at 8 p.m. every Thursday on DD India.
You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Siddharth Bharadwaj, and a quick recap of headlines. In a major infra push to the eastern state Bihar, PM Modi inaugurates key development projects worth 13,000 crore, 8.15 kilometer long Onta-Samaria bridge to improve connectivity and ease traffic. India's External Affairs Minister concludes Moscow visit, calls on Russian President Vladimir Putin, discusses key bilateral and global issues ahead of Annual Leaders Summit later this year. Former Sri Lanka President Ranil Wickremesinghe arrested for alleging misusing government funds. And Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to resume negotiations on hostage release, but on Israel's terms, proceeds with Gaza takeover plan. US President Donald Trump visited police and National Guard troops in Washington, D.C. on Thursday as part of his administration's crackdown on crime. Trump told the troops they would stay there for a while, emphasizing his commitment to making the capital safer. Trump deployed National Guard soldiers and federal agents to the city last week, temporarily taking over the city's police department in an extraordinary assertion of presidential power. City officials, however, have rejected Trump's claims, pointing to federal and city statistics that show a decline in violent crime in the past years. Meanwhile, protests erupted in Washington against Trump's crime crackdown, with demonstrators voicing their opposition, holding signs and flags. The Trump administration announced on Thursday a sweeping review of all US visa holders, potentially affecting more than 55 million people. A State Department official said that all visa holders are subject to continuous vetting, which includes monitoring for any signs of ineligibility, such as overstays, criminal conduct, or links to terrorist activity. The review process would include an examination of visa holders' social media profiles, home country law enforcement and immigration records, and any violations of US laws, including those committed after arrival. The review represents one of the largest visa enforcement efforts in recent US history. It could impact a wide spectrum of travelers, from students to workers to family visa holders. The State Department says visas that allow people to stay in the United States are revoked anytime if there are indicators of overstays, criminal activity, threats to public safety, engaging in any form of terrorist activity, or providing support to a terrorist organization. The State Department earlier said it has revoked 6,000 visas since Trump took office in January. In another update, Trump administration has abruptly halted issuing US visas for truck drivers after a fatal crash drew national attention. This is the latest sweeping step against foreign drivers. US Secretary of State Marco Rubio, in a social media post on X, has said, and I quote, "The increasing number of foreign drivers operating large tractor-trailer trucks on US roads is endangering American lives and undercutting the livelihoods of American truckers." Rubio's action came after a truck driver was charged with killing 3 people on a highway in Florida while making an illegal U-turn. And also, going back to a top story now, Israel has said that it will immediately start negotiations for the release of all hostages held in Gaza and an end to the nearly 2-year-old conflict, but on terms acceptable to Israel. Earlier, Hamas has accepted a ceasefire proposal by Egypt and Qatar for Gaza. The proposal deal includes pullback of 1 kilometer by Israel Defense Forces from their current positions, except in the areas of Beit Lahia and Shejaiya. In exchange for 10 living hostages, Israel will release over 200 Palestinian prisoners, including 140 individuals who are serving life sentences. Humanitarian aid, along with fuel, electricity and water, will be allowed to enter Gaza. The Rafah crossing will be reopened in both directions. A 60-day ceasefire will be implemented, during which further negotiations are expected to resume. And now, joining me on the broadcast today is Dr. Kinraj Jangid, West Asia expert from OP Jindal Global University. Sir, a very warm welcome to the broadcast. To begin with, what's your assessment of this entire situation that's in front of us right now, as far as Israel and Hamas is concerned? And Benjamin Netanyahu has also said that they will immediately resume the negotiations plan, but on Israel's terms. What is this entire situation according to you? What's your assessment?
Namaskar, Siddharth. The situation that Israel has got in is a very bad one. There are really no, let's say, good policy decisions to be made. Netanyahu is certainly, pressurizing Hamas with the threat that Gaza City will be now attacked. It's a very serious threat because this is the last stronghold where the hostages are. And so far, Israel hesitated in attacking this particular part of Gaza, keeping in mind that Hamas might harm the hostages in a direct and the last confrontation. However, Hamas has also in a way dodged any other pressure that Donald Trump and Israel has, have been putting for the last 6 months in really coming to terms with any deal. So Netanyahu's call for attack on Gaza City is critical for the Israelis for two reasons. A, the army chief wasn't sure this is the right decision. Compromising the lives of the remaining hostages was certainly the number one concern. In fact, demanded the cabinet to then drop the hostage release as one of the goals of the war, because going to Gaza City will not get them free. Second, a week ago, opposing this decision, a public protest happened. Close to 500,000 people, 5 lakh, which is 5% of the population of the Israeli state, they came on the streets. And that has been a very serious public sentiment against Netanyahu's decision in last 1 year. So I think Netanyahu is now not in a position to deny negotiations. And Hamas really relented immediately and said, we agreed to the ceasefire deal. And they 3 days back sent their positive response, to which Israel is now sending a team to negotiate to a location that is yet not known. Maybe they are talking in Cairo, maybe they are talking in Doha. I don't know what will be the outcome. My worst case assumption is that Israel will not go for a partial deal and Gaza City will be attacked.
Okay, the Gaza takeover plan, you mean to say. You just talked about, sir, regarding the lives of the hostages. That's number one concern you mentioned. But I believe the entire negotiations are being done because of that.
See, this is the tricky part. There are many ministers in Israeli government, including the Minister for the Interior Security and the Finance Minister, who are both security cabinet, part of the security cabinet. And saying that hostages are not the number one priority.
Okay.
Taking over the Gaza is their priority. It's a very, very disturbing, in a way, declaration, but it has been publicly out. However, the public is much against this decision of the government. So Netanyahu is, in a way, trying to appear, a moderate figure for the public, saying that no, hostages are still the priority and they will try to negotiate and make compromise. But it doesn't seem like he will be in a position to do that because A, Hamas doesn't want to really come down off its own demands, which is Hamas is still holding a maximalist position. And Netanyahu might then have a fear of losing the coalition, meaning his government may fall. Though opposition parties, which have been completely, in a way, at the receiving end of many of Netanyahu's decisions, they have still come out and said, if the far extremists will make this government fall, they will come to rescue Netanyahu's coalition and they will give him support on the compromise.
Netanyahu has also said that negotiations, if at all, will happen, keeping Israel's demands in concern. What are these demands? What are these terms and conditions?
That's the most ambiguous part of this war. Netanyahu hasn't really said what is his end game, what is the final goal that, till what objective he will fight in Gaza. He said it very clearly yesterday that he will negotiate, he will not suspend the conversation with Hamas representatives. He will still carry on with the Gaza City operation, which means he is on a maximalist strategy to let Hamas negotiate on its own terms, and Israel will not drop the plan to occupy the whole of Gaza.
Yeah, so that means that on one side the negotiations will take place, if at all, and on one side the Gaza takeover plan will carry on. Israel's defense ministry has authorized the call-up of roughly 60,000 reservists. How massive this operation could be and what could be its geopolitical implications, sir?
Well, that Geopolitically, it's a disaster for many of the allies for Israel in the region. Allies like Saudi Arabia, Jordan, Egypt, they have all been demanding Israel to really reach to a political solution. So I think geopolitically, Israel will test the support of these Arab states.
Okay.
Arab states do have an interest in seeing the final defeat of Hamas in Gaza City. That's also a tangible goal that is yet to be achieved. When it comes to calling of the reserved forces in Israel, now in Israel, it's a serious problem. There are many people in Israel in the reserved force who served more than 300 days in Gaza in the last 18 months. So there is real fatigue and disenchantment among the reserve force. And reserve force cannot be really taken for granted by the defense ministry. There are lots of people who are refusing to report. And Israel is trying to not punish all of those people who are refusing to report. Yesterday's news was also that people above the age of 50 are reporting to the duty because young ones are really either deeply disillusioned with the government decision, are also very traumatized from whatever they have been in a way witnessing and seeing in Gaza for the last 18 months. And third, they also don't understand till when they have to keep fighting in Gaza. Is it not going to be for years? I think because of the muddiness, because of the ambiguous political position that this government is taking over Gaza, the army is really not sure. And that's why the chief of staff, and let's keep in mind, the chief of staff was appointed just 6 months back by Netanyahu. They fired the last one, Yoav Gallant, because he was opposing their military operations in Gaza endlessly.
Indeed.
Now the current chief is also saying to the government,
I understand, sir, what you're trying to say. You know, this is a very complex situation, and negotiations, if at all, like I was just saying, if negotiations will take place, Israel said that they will happen to the terms acceptable to Israel. So we'll have to wait and see when and where will these negotiations, if at all, will take place. This is developing, but we leave it there. Thank you so much, sir, for coming on the broadcast today. Thank you so much. Let's take a look at other stories making news around the world. For the first time, Hanoi's Ho Chi Minh Relic Site offers self-guided tours using augmented reality, allowing visitors to relive key historical moments like the Declaration of Independence. The immersive experience uses 3D mapping, light and sound to engage audiences, especially the youth. China's Tan Sheho, a motorcycle repairman, has found a creative way to combine his passion for art with his work. Using motor oil as paint and wrenches and screwdrivers as brushes, Tan creates traditional Chinese ink wash paintings in his spare time. Tan collects used motor oil from customers' oil changes to use as paint. He has developed a technique using metal wrenches to create outlines, screwdrivers for details, and motor oil as paint. And Jean-Jacques Wallace, a 35-year-old South African skydiver, is pushing the limits of human flight with his exceptional wingsuit flying skills. With over 2 decades of experience, Wallace has become one of the world's fastest wingsuit flyers. Wallace's recent jumps over Table Mountai, captured in July 2025, show him gliding within meters of the terrain before deploying his parachute and landing at dusk. His flights have helped position South Africa as a rising hub for wingsuit flying. And still to come on DD India News Hour. Draw for 2025 US Open singles are out. India clinches gold in 10-meter air rifle team event at the Asian Shooting Championship.
Jharkhand will mesmerize you with majestic nature, rich heritage and colorful culture.
Hello. Johar. It fits perfectly.
Thank you.
Full workout ho gaya.
Ready?
Postcards from Jharkhand on National Geographic.
You're watching DD India News. I'm Siddharth Bharadwaj. The US and European Union released details of a trade deal on Thursday that foresees lower car tariffs but no relief for Europe's wine sector. Brussels, however, said it would push for further concessions as negotiations remain underway. Under the framework accord clinched by Trump and EU's Ursula von der Leyen in July, the maximum all-inclusive 15% rate would apply to the vast majority of European exports, including cars, pharmaceuticals, semiconductors, lumber, and even wine and spirits. However, EU believes that the tariff rate of 15% on cars, which is lower than the current 27.5%, will apply retroactively from August 1st, having received assurances on the matter from his US counterpart. But this will happen only once the EU introduces legislation to eliminate its own tariffs on US industrial products. French Trade Minister said his government would seek additional exemptions in the trade deal. The office of Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni said the agreement was not yet an ideal or final point, but a trade war had been avoided. Under the agreement, the EU committed to significantly improving market access to a range of US seafood and agricultural goods, including tree nuts, dairy products, fruits, vegetables, pork, and bison meat. Let's take a look at this infographic showing total EU exports to the US. According to Eurostat data in 2024, total EU exports to the US amounted to 533 billion euros. Out of all, pharmaceuticals account for 20% of the EU's exports to the United States. If you would have to name something very American, maybe Coca-Cola would come to mind, a drink long associated with the American way of life. In Germany, Coca-Cola is working hard to shed that image, including with a new advertising campaign. Lars Halter is with Deutsche Welle and joins me from Berlin. Lars, what can you tell us about that new campaign?
Thanks for having me. Well, I saw it first last Monday as I was waiting for the bus. The billboard features a woman in front of a bottling plant. She's holding up a bottle of Coke, and the slogan says, "Made by Heike." Now, that is a very German name. And on the way to work, I saw more billboards, "Made by Daniel." There's also a "Made by Mohammed." Now, what's behind this campaign? Well, in a world where every day the news cycle is dominated by Donald Trump, with much of the world opposing his policies and with the US currently at odds with other countries in terms of trade, but also even cultural topics, Coca-Cola is trying not to be seen as that American. They fear boycotts. And for good reason. In Denmark, for example, Coke sales dropped steeply after Trump said he wants to annex Greenland, which is, of course, part of Denmark. So Coca-Cola is trying to tell people that, in fact, they're not just an American company, but that much of the product sold in certain regions is actually made there. And it's true, the company has plants everywhere, including in Germany. And while some of the profits obviously go to the US, any boycott, let's say, in Germany would obviously hit that bottling plants first and foremost, and it would cost jobs locally. It would hurt the local economy more than the American economy.
But Coca-Cola is not the only American brand sold in Germany, Lars, or Europe. How are other companies dealing with the problem?
They're often using the same strategy, try to distract from the American roots and point out local connections. Look at McDonald's. On lots of billboards right now, you no longer see burgers and fries, but you see pictures of German farmers, even a map of Germany pointing out where their farms are located. And the message is, these are the people supplying our meat, our potatoes, the wheat for our burger buns. Burger King uses a Made in Germany slogan as well in its advertising. And by the way, this is not only happening in Germany. We are seeing similar campaigns in France, but also outside Europe, like even in Canada, where Heinz was advertising recently that the tomatoes it uses for its ketchup are grown locally. Or the makers of a famous maple syrup pointed out that they're harvesting locally in Canada. All these campaigns were necessary as sales of American goods fell off a cliff in Canada ever since Trump said he wants to make Canada the 51st state.
All right, we'll leave it there, Lars. Thank you so much. And time now for sport. US Open defending champion Jannik Sinner will begin his title defense against Czech Wickremesinghe, while Sabalenka will be tested in her bid to retain her title after the draw was made. The 24-year-old Italian could meet Britain's Jack Draper in the quarterfinals, third seed Alexander Zverev in the semis, and Carlos Alcaraz in the final. While reigning French Open champion Alcaraz will begin against American Riley Opelka. Four-times champion Novak Djokovic will start against Tien and could face Alcaraz in a semi-final. In the women's draw, top seed Sabalenka will begin against Rebecca Masarova, and she could take on Jessica Pegula in the semi-final, and Wimbledon winner Iga Swiatek in the final. Second seed Swiatek will start against Colombia's Emiliana and could face Amanda Anisimova in a quarterfinal. French Open champion Coco Gauff would face fellow American Madison Keys, who won this year's Australian Open, in quarterfinals before a possible date with Swiatek. The singles tournaments at the year's final Grand Slam begin on Sunday. India's Rudraksh Patil, Arjun Babuta and Kiran Jadhav combined to win the gold medal in 10-meter air rifle men's team event at the Asian Shooting Championship in Kazakhstan. The Indian trio accumulated a score of 1,892.5 points, with Patil leading the charge with 632.3 points. China finished with the silver medal ahead of bronze medalist South Korea. This was India's second senior gold medal at the championships after Anantjit Singh Naruka clinched the men's skeet title. India's senior shooters have also bagged 1 silver and 4 bronze medals, taking the tally to 7. Only China have won more medals. The trophy for the Champions League T10 tournament was unveiled in Delhi on Thursday. Union Minister of Food Processing Industries Chirag Paswan attended the ceremony. The event marks the arrival of India's first indoor cricket league. It blends the thrill of high-octane T10 cricket with the fun of a tennis ball format. Former internationals Ross Taylor, Dilshan, Thisara Pereira, Parthe Patel, Dan Christian and Sean Marsh will feature in the competition. On this occasion, former Sri Lankan cricketer Tilakaratne Dilshan called India his second home and also shared the memories of the 2011 ICC ODI World Cup final between India and Sri Lanka.
Like my second home, I think it's a lot of friends. Even 2007, I had my wedding in here. Even a lot of memories I carry from India. Even I can't forget 2011 World Cup. After Sachin and Viru got out, entire 100,000 people silent in that Mumbai. But that's that day I can't forget. 2011 World Cup final. Carry a lot of memories and a lot of friends. Even this 8 months, I think more than 10 times I on and off come to India. Great people. Especially other things I enjoy, that's Indian food.
It's going back to what we did as little kids, back to playing with a tennis ball again. So it's yeah, it's nice to have that new challenge, and yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. Should be a great couple of days.
The second day of Khelo India Water Sports Festival 2025 at the picturesque Dal Lake, Srinagar witnessed spirited competitions, enthusiastic participation and a vibrant atmosphere celebrating India's growing water sports culture. Athletes from across the country showcased their skill, stamina and determination in a series of power-packed events including canoeing, kayaking, rowing and dragon boat races. The waters of Dal Lake came alive with cheers from spectators as participants pushed their limits to secure victories. Officials from the Sports Authority of India and the Jammu and Kashmir Sports Council commended the athletes for their discipline and competitive spirit while highlighting Kashmir's potential as a premier hub for water-based adventure and sporting activities. That's all for this edition of DD India News Hour, but let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms, and you can scan the QR code on the screen to download now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Siddharth Bharadwaj from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India News Hour.